AT dropped 27, 11, and 8 yesterday, and I am yearning to talk about that and Mercury basketball, all that and more after this quick intro on the PHNX Mercury podcast. What is up, and welcome back to the PHNX Mercury podcast. I am your host, Erica Lee Day, joined by esteemed PG1, QB1, on and off the field, in and out of the studio, on and off the court. Where ain't he these days? Stephen Pridgeon Garner. Stephen, how the heck are you on this fine Monday afternoon in downtown Phoenix?
To say the least, but having fun doing it. It's been a very Monday. We are here. How about you? How you doing?
You know, I can't complain. I gotta complain about the weather for a second. This 110-degree nonsense, like, can we please get like a centimeter of rain or something? Like, this is egregious at this point. A little bit of gust of wind, like something, because I step outside and it's just still hot air and I'm not enjoying it. So other than that, though, I really can't complain. The Mercury got a big dub yesterday over the Mystics. I know a lot of people probably do sleep on the Mystics, but the Mystics are a freaking good team that are gonna upset a lot of teams come these last 20 games of the season. So I was excited about that win over the Mystics yesterday. Obviously, I got to give a huge shout out to Kevin Thomas for being behind the Mac today on this fine Monday afternoon. But let's just get started. AT had another ridiculous performance. Kevin, if you want to go ahead and bring that graphic that I had you make up on the screen, it's 27 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals and a block, and that was on 12 for 17 shooting. The MVP conversation, we started this a long time ago with Alyssa Thomas, but it really cannot be had without mentioning Alyssa Thomas's name right now. She's top 2 players in the WNBA. The only player that you can argue really is playing better than her is Nafisa Collier. And I mean, really, it's those two at the top and then everybody else yearning behind them. But Alyssa Thomas has put together just complete game after complete game after complete game. And it's just getting better and better every time the big three construct continues to grow. AT's role just enhances. And so I'm just really, really excited to continue to watch AT in Phoenix.
Yeah, she's been everything as advertised and then some this season to the tune of multiple career high rates. That's for a player that's already been an MVP, perennial MVP candidate, perennial All W, perennial All Defensive Team, perennial All Defensive Player of the Year candidate for each of the last at least 5 to 6 years. So for her to be in the season, I think year 11, if I'm not mistaken, and still be putting up the numbers that she is now to the tune of career highs in multiple respects, it just speaks to just how great of a player she is, how well situated she is with the team that she's working with now, and ultimately what they're working towards, which is something bigger than just Alyssa herself, which she's mentioned multiple times before. So she's just doing simply what she's expected to do. I think that the pieces around her will need to improve their play for them to get back to sustaining the level that they were at prior to the All-Star break, but them getting back healthy is going to suggest that there's a lot more performances like this from her to come, but also suggest that the team will kind of rise with the tide as well.
Well, and to talk a little more about the win yesterday over the Mystics, it was really on the back of the defense. I mean, allowing only 26 points in that second half, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, that's after being pretty much tied even throughout the entire first half. So really, really impressive defensive showing from the team, and that's always on the back of Alyssa Thomas. So it was a really impressive showing from the Mercury, and it's kind of just it goes to prove kind of everything that Steven and I have literally been saying on this show, that if they can hold it down on the defensive end, everything else just works out perfectly for the Mercury.
Yeah, and it all starts with the defense for them. Their identity lies 10 toes down with the defense, first, second, and third, before getting to the offense. From personnel to style of play to approach to the side of the ball that they that they value most. They every time you ask about it, if it makes sense for them to answer that way, they always mention in some capacity that they can't be who they want to be without their defense being where it needs to be. And their defense for all of the W games that I've been able to watch this season has been no worse than the third defense in the league, and for the better part of the season, it's been the second best. I don't think any defense has been better comprehensively than the Minnesota Lynx defense has been. And the fact that they have 2 of the 3 defensive player of the year candidates, if you ask me, speaks directly to that as well. So when they get in alignment with the defense that we speak to, getting multiple stops, being able to defend in multiple different types of ways, the multiple efforts within all of that from the individuals that are on the floor, when they string those together across multiple possessions, that's when they're at their best. I don't think they had any kills in the first half. In the second half, they probably had about 6 or 7, somewhere around that range, if I remember correctly, and rewatching the game. That's the space that they need to be operating in significantly more for them to turn this corner and get back to, like I said, that level of sustained play that they enjoyed for the better part of the first half of the schedule.
And I was really excited to talk to you about this win, and I'm so sorry if you guys can hear barking in the background. We got a new puppy in the Day household, named Juno. He's 14 weeks old. He's real cute, but real rambunctious. Okay, let me just give you a warning: don't bring 14 weeks old week old puppies in a house you're trying to keep calm, because it actually just doesn't work out that way. But that's okay. We tried to give him a Mercury related name, didn't work out. We don't want to put too many jinxes on the Mercury via my dog. So, anyways, though, they did not shoot the ball to the likes of which they kind of normally would. 5 for 21 if I'm correct. I think that's the case. Yeah, 5 for 21 from deep yesterday, which I mean, we're going to get into some clips that you got here in a second, but this just kind of showed that they could win games in ways other than just putting up a ton of threes, which obviously we talk about the defense being like what the team is built on, but ultimately what the way they've proven to put up like a ton of points with is the three. So watching them put up such a dominant victory without being dominant from three really put a lot of confidence in me that this team can continue to buy or to get a lot of wins in unique ways.
I mean, I think they shown that all season long. They Even though they went into coming into yesterday's game, they were second in 3-point attempts, second in 3-point makes on average, and fourth in 3-point percentage. Though they were top 5 in all 3 of those respects, and obviously top 2 in attempts and makes. That's not who this team is. They shoot and make the threes that they do because of the ways that they dominate on the inside, and the attention that the players that they have kind of comes with how they play on the inside part of it all. So I feel like that kind of gets lost in translation, because there's been multiple times the last couple of weeks where people have asked either players or Nate about essentially them being live by the three, die by the three, and that framing contextually is not accurate or appropriate to the style of play that they play with. Um, and I guess that's what kind of comes into watching the games, that part of it, because they take a lot, but why do they take a lot of the threes that they do? Unless it's Sammy Wickham or Satu Sabali, everybody else is taking threes based off of the ball moving either in 2 or 3 times before it gets to them, or someone getting a paint touch in some capacity that collapses the defense. So that process does not look for a team that takes like the volume where that's the first thing that they're looking at in the shot clock. First thing the Mercury are looking at in the shot clock is to get a paint touch or get to the rim. It's rim and three, rim and three, rim and three. But all of that kind of in the mix of it all is a paint touch before anything else. The paint touch decides what type of attempt at the rim they can get or what type of 3-point opportunity they're able to generate. And it's a lot more catch and shoot threes for the Mercury, like I mentioned, outside of Satu Sabali and Sammy Wickham, than it is the kind of pull-up threes. So understanding and kind of framing it the right way kind of help to contextualize why this team is built the way they are and why they saw the successes that they did more than anything else.
Well, and I feel like a big part of what the Mercury is going to be able to unlock continuously on offense and defense, honestly, as well, is DeWanna Bonner and the way she's fit into the team, which has been pretty seamlessly. And I mean, it wasn't super loud in the box score yesterday. I think she only finished with 2 points, but it doesn't really matter when Alyssa Thomas is going off in the way she was yesterday. But I feel like DeWanna Bonner has really seamlessly fit in and allowed for the spacing in which the Mercury already had before, but almost better with DeWanna there.
Yeah, DeWanna is just a smart, versatile, active, very very capable basketball player. That shouldn't be news to anybody, but I feel like there's a certain faction of younger fans that might not necessarily understand just who DeWanna is and what her impact is when she's on the team that kind of understands how to feature her to those strengths is what that can be in potential as well. So kind of just generally looking at the team. I asked Nate Tibbetts earlier in pregame about just kind of the ups and downs, the ins and outs about when you're trying to coach a team that has a lot of injuries to where players aren't necessarily always available, and then some players are available, and the kind of ebbs and flows and how that kind of challenges a coach in terms of game planning. So Kevo, if we have that video from pregame, here's what Nate Tibbetts had to say to me in response to that.
Well, I think it's twofold. It is challenging to find a rotation. I would love for our players to get into a routine of knowing when they're going in, when they're coming out, what groups they're playing with. We have not had that luxury this year, and I think it's helped us grow a little bit more quickly than just as far as being able to adjust. With 20 games to go, it would be great to kind of get into a comfort level, but like that's not coaching, right? Like the other night was going to be the first night we had all 12 players healthy, and I walk out 2 minutes before the game and Kat says she's sick and she can't play. And so that's the life of coaching. I mean, you can plan for things, but things always change. And so we have to figure it out. As far as the rotations go, I'd like to explore some different lineups. Hopefully tonight we can get to some of those lineups that we haven't seen, just as we get more healthy. But then also, some of the players that have come off the bench are going to be playing less minutes. Can they be as productive as Ka and Satu get more minutes? And then the addition to DB. So there's a lot of moving parts. As a coach, you'd rather have more players healthy and then, having tougher decisions of who to play and who not to play. But hopefully I answered both your questions with that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so in that you kind of get a good understanding of just how complex and how layered decision making is for a coach when you don't have your full roster at your disposal in terms of a game by game basis, and then not to just go from not having to having, but to having all in kind of one sweeping blow. It wasn't like he had a faction of the rotation and then Satu came back, and then Kalia came back, and then Mo came back. It was like, no, you just simply don't have any of those pieces, and then you get them all back in one sweeping blow. That changes your lineups, the constructs of your rotation, and just kind of everything in terms of minutes distribution as well as usage. All of that to say, like we said on post game on Friday, this is very much a relearning process for the team. They have to reintegrate so many different pieces, start to experiment with so many different types of lineups, different player combinations, all of this fun type of stuff. Nothing to complain about, but if you want to understand why they're losing some of these games that we saw them win early this season, the fact that they aren't doing that, they're not going into those games with a concrete kind of rotation. They're still learning themselves. These are the kind of ebbs and flows that come with that. And like we said on Friday, this is also why you value so much getting out the gates to a hot start, because you build yourself some cushion to work with once you do get back healthy. And to that point, bringing in DeWanna Bonner, like we spoke to prior to Nate speaking to the rotations and the ups and downs there, I got to talk with him post game about DeWanna in particular and kind of what she adds to the rotation and the different ways that she generally adds value for the team on the defensive end. Here's what he had to say in alignment with that.
Yeah, like we talked about before the game, we're going to use these next, 20 games to explore different lineups. We're finally getting healthy. Adding DB just kind of adds to our length and versatility. Like I said, she's played some 2, she's played some 3. I don't know if you want to call her the 4 or AT the 5 or 4 or 5. It doesn't matter. But more of those lineups. I want to see how we are defensively. I believe we're going to be hard to guard at the other end for sure. But just her length, her versatility, our switchability is going to be. We're going to be able to get to our switches even more with her out there.
Yeah, so that ability to switch, but also just the general ability to be more active on defense, to play a different style of physicality. And that's not a slight in any capacity to any of the other players on the roster that spend time in the front court. It's just that there's different paces that you can play with different styles of your defense. And the lineup that Nate was speaking to, that I posed a question framed around, was DeWanna Bonner playing center or power forward, if you will, next to Alyssa Thomas. That lineup yesterday, as I'm bringing the numbers back up, just so that I speak accurately, that lineup was plus 17. I know that for sure. I'm trying to see what the minutes total was for it. Okay, so like I said, plus 17 for that lineup. They outscored the Washington Mystics in the 10.5 minutes that lineup spent on the floor yesterday. Obviously, that 10.5 minutes being more minutes than any other lineup spent on the floor for the Mercury yesterday, or for the Mystics for that matter, by nearly 2 minutes and some change. Speaks to the confidence in it, but also the effectiveness and the intention behind trying to learn just how much that lineup that Nate can get out of that lineup, but also how much that lineup can give as well. If that lineup is able to play 10.5 minutes, that's not going to be every game, but to know that lineup can kind of hold up in that kind of volume of minutes says a lot. Plus 17 is no joke. Again, this Mystics team, for people that maybe don't understand just kind of how good this team is, this is a playoff team right now. This is a team that the Mercury could potentially see in the first round should the standings kind of shake out the way that they are right now. They're very much in range of potentially meeting up in the first round series. And it's not a team that's going to be easily just walked over either, because preparation is one thing. They're also very good with executing. They've been one of the better defenses since the first month of the season has kind of taken place, and Sidney Johnson has kind of got his feet wet as a head coach. So we want to keep an eye on that lineup. The lineups with Alyssa Thomas or DeWanna Bonner at the 5, the other at the 4, however you want to structure that. But Satu Sabally and Kalia Copper on the floor. And it could be any mix of Monica Kormakani, who was in the lineup that they spent the most time with last night. That could also be Sammy Wickham in those lineups. That could also be Lexi Held in those lineups. I think any version of those former 4 players that I mentioned and the latter 3 in the combination for that lineup kind of makes it work in different ways. And I think we'll see a whole lot more of it going forward.
Well, and kind of to piggyback off of a point from Nate earlier, it's one thing for him to find the rotation that's correct with all the players being back, but it's another thing for the players to find comfortability in their role in that rotation. So,
Yep.
Kit Loxa, for example, played a completely different role when the team was on that 7-game hot win streak a month. It almost feels like a month ago now. It's probably 3 weeks ago, to be fair, but she was playing a completely different role and had to play not only more minutes, so she had a lot more time to get her production, but so she's just having to find new ways to be productive for the team, and that goes for everybody on the bench for the Mercury right now, and even a little bit to the players that start for the team as well, where they're just trying to find their spots with each other, but they all just have to find new ways to produce what they were before in either more limited minutes or a new type of minutes with new people around them. So I think, yeah, like everyone, I can definitely understand the 3-game slip here definitely stunk for sure, but I think we saw a glimpse of it turning around yesterday. Obviously, it is the Mystics, but to your point, like it's a 3 all-star team here we're talking about, and 2 of those all-stars are rookies that are just barely being unlocked. Like we're talking about Asia Wilson reincarnate and Sonia Citron. Like these players are no joke. So, I love to hee and ha ha about the Mystics as much as everybody else, but also Big Mama Steph, like the roster is deeper than we give them credit for. So nonetheless, like I think this team is figuring it out. And while it kind of looked ugly for a couple games there, the game yesterday was a good reflection of what it can look like when it works out to what they want, which that second half defensively is exactly what they want games to look like.
Yep. And I think the other big thing with the defense when DeWanna is at the 4 or at the 5, whichever way you want to look at that, it's the fact that 4 of the 5 players on the court with that lineup being obviously AT and DeWanna, Basatu, and even to a certain extent Scalia, depending on who the opposing 5 is. All 4 of those players can switch onto a center and guard in varying capacities in an effective way. Obviously, Kalia is not going to guard as well as Satu or Alyssa or DeWanna, but if she has to do so in this late clock, 6 seconds left, she can switch onto the center and hold her guard her yard for 1 or 2 dribbles before help comes and get up a solid contest. It's those little things that when you get to the playoffs, and it's less about plays and it's more about offense is playing off of what a defense is doing. If you got a lineup with those 4 players on the court and they're just able to switch and play with activity and help and kind of just generally fly around on the same accord defensively, it's a lot to deal with. That's a lot of athleticism. That's a lot of plus size wingspan and size at each position respectively. That's a lot to deal with. And I feel like that's going to be some of the best versions of this Mercury defense going forward against these higher level teams. Obviously, there's a size component that comes with it, which is why I said you might not see that lineup play 10 and a half minutes every game like we did in yesterday's win. But if they can even get 2.5 minutes at a timely stretch, let's say it's a clutch and they're going up against the Minnesota Lynx, let's just say, or even the New York Liberty, and you don't want to put one of your 5s out there to give them something to poke at in terms of matchups. You want to go with those 4 and throw in Lexi or throw in Mo or throw in Sammy if she's on the heater. You can get away with that and play to a certain style of activity-based defense that allows for you to kind of either take possessions away from them or just stay solid and keeping them from getting the shots that they want to take on goal. So just little things in their game process that they're still learning and kind of growing through. But I think they're finding more things like Nate mentioned to me in the first clip that we showed as he's kind of getting his full breadth of talent back at his disposal and kind of being able to gauge film off of.
Yeah, and I think another player that, you mentioned guard centers, and I just started thinking about Mac Truck, honk, honk, and I just got really excited. You tweeted about it yesterday. We've been talking about it probably since the beginning of the season, even before Mac was even playing. Mac's confidence throughout we're 26 games into the season, and she's played 12 to 15 of them off top of my dome here. But her confidence, even since she started playing again this season, has grown. And I mean, it shows in the off the court stuff, of course, the honk honk and her little attitude that she has in practice clips, but on the court more than anything, her confidence shows when she's playing against players that are bigger than her, and she is holding her own and oftentimes, guarding them extremely well. I, I want to give her a quick shout for this specific play against Shakira Austin, where she pretty much had Shakira in the blender, and then suddenly Shakira got repositioning on her and boom, cooked her. But it's little things like that where she's getting the initial stop and maybe she's missing the second one, but I have confidence that she's going to be able to find her footing and getting that second stop there. And so I just think as we continue to watch everyone else find their role, Mac is going to continue to grow and skyrocket. And when you have someone like Alyssa Thomas there alongside you to learn from, how can you not continue to get better and better and better? So honk, freaking honk. Mac is playing her little rear end off, and we love, love, love to see it.
So full context on Natasha Mack. The confidence is definitely the loudest thing. I've tried to emphasize that all season long. It's been unignorable if you paid attention to the Mercury last season coming into this season. Moments where I wouldn't say she wasn't sure about her talent, but she just wasn't confident about how she went about it. Those days are like far, far gone. That's an old version of Mac that just simply doesn't exist anymore. And you want to credit her for the work that she did on herself off the court before anything else. If you've been watching us since the preseason, when she was on the show during the offseason, she kind of spoke to some of those things and just how generally life experiences helped her turn corners in confidence, and that she's also gained confidence as well going through the fire multiple seasons in a row where she's not sure if she's going to be on the roster going into it. She has to work through injury, work through emotions, work through adversity in terms of the ambiguity of her roster positioning, ultimately confidence being gained, making it to the actual roster twice in a row now. This is a player that's in a different type of space, and that confidence is being felt in play. So if I told you all that Angel Reese had an offense, mind you, Angel Reese, for those that don't know or those that fail to acknowledge, best offensive rebounder in WNBA history. It's okay to say that for a second-year player when you come in and be as dominant as she has been. If I told you all that Angel Reese had an 11.7 offensive rebound rate, meaning that she's grabbing 11.7% of the misses from the Chicago Sky so far this season when she's played. If I told you that, and then I asked you what kind of space did you think Natasha Mack was operating in as far as that goes, what would you say? I think your mic is muted.
My apologies. I'm trying to mute my dog out there. I said not shocking.
Yeah. She's rebounding at the same rate on the offensive boards. The exact same rate as Angel Reese. Not saying that she's the exact player, but in the minutes that she does play, she is offensive rebounding at the exact same rate of 11.7. On a defensive end, she's grabbing 21% of the defensive rebounds available when she's on the court as well. That's also a number that's fairly elite. The offensive number is more elite than the defensive number. When you put them both together, that gives you someone that is corralling rebounds generally at a rate that's helping this team kind of bridge the gap across multiple lineups. Additionally, the confidence around the rim. She's finishing with more consistency. She's even seeking out her own shots with more consistency. I'm thinking back to moments against the New York Liberty where to start the game, we talk about her coming in place of Kat Westbell, as she had illness that kind of came up in pregame that she wasn't able to play. You go into the game against the New York Liberty. Erica, do you remember who was guarding Natasha Mack to start the game against the New York Liberty?
I'm gonna guess either JJ or Stewie, but I'm probably gonna guess.
Sabrina
Oh, go ahead.
Sabrina Ionescu. Yes.
Oh, they thought
And
that she wasn't gonna do nothing, huh?
and the confidence in Mac, but also the confidence in Alyssa Thomas was everything for me. Because it's not just Mac individually, but it's also the confidence from Alyssa Thomas, who she spends a lot of time working out with in terms of post finishing, footwork around the basket, footwork in and out of screening roles and things like that. When they get to individual workouts, sometimes they're working together. And there's a certain type of confidence that you can infuse in someone else in terms of leadership, but there's also for someone that's kind of being receiving the leadership. Someone that working out with Alyssa Thomas, if she's telling you and infusing this confidence in you from the work that you're putting in, you're going to naturally be more confident in yourself. Mac finishing around the rim a lot more consistently this season as well. Some of that stemming from AT, that moment I'm speaking to with the New York Liberty. There's a play they're trying to run, that breaks down. Alyssa prompts for whoever the guard is on the same side as Natasha Mack to cut through to the other side, and then prompts for Mack to cut directly to the block to put Sabrina Ionescu directly in action on the post up. And then Natasha Mack ultimately gets the ball and she scores. You can copy and paste that to multiple moments across this stretch of games where Mack has been back consistently in the rotation. Alyssa's not going to just do that for anybody. There's a certain level of sweat equity, attention to detail, and a certain type of urgency you have to move with on your own will for a vet like Alyssa to buy into you in that manner. Needless to say, Natasha Mack is there in multiple respects. And this Mercury team is going to be better off because of it. She's also going to be better off because of it as an individual. And it's going to pay great dividends for this team as they get towards as they get closer to the playoffs and get closer towards those most meaningful, high urgency type of games.
Mac has been a player that throughout the last 2 seasons, even seemingly during her injuries, Nate Tibbetts has been able to count on, not only on the court, but also in the locker room to consistently be the type of player that he wants all of his players to be. She shows up early. I saw a clip of him, of Nate Tibbetts, talking about how at least 75% of the team stops by his office to ask how his day was before they leave the practice facility for the day. I am going to guarantee you personally, Erica Day guarantee, that Natasha Mack started that at the beginning of the training camp, and it has just continued for everybody throughout. I think, there has been a relationship there that has been built between Mac and Nate that cannot really be messed with at this point. Mac really trusts Nate, and Nate really trusts Mac. It's a two-way street that when you're a newer player to the WNBA and at this level of your career is pretty much invaluable. So I think, there's a lot to be said about the locker room culture that's been built in Phoenix, but the asset that has been that of Natasha Mack in building that culture has been so invaluable. And it kind of goes under respected because of how new she is to the league, but she has just been, for lack of a better term, she's really brought the smoke in making sure that the team all gets along and everybody feels welcome and belongs. And that is just such an underrated trait in new players in the league. So huge shouts to Mac. I promised y'all in the comments I'd give you a quality honk honk. So there it is for you on the day. Don't ask me again. I did what you asked for. And Natasha Mack is doing the same thing as well. Just doing what you asked for out there.
Should I clip that and so we can have it as like an audio sounder? Or should we wait until Erica's in studio and have her like actually record a honk honk? I think this should be something that we do.
It's up to you guys. I think the bark and the honk probably both deserve a little button,
Because there's going to be a time where you don't want to actually hit a honk honk, but we need a honk honk,
I'm going to be honest with you. I cannot imagine a world where I'm not willing to just offer up a honk honk, If Mac's doing
Mac is
deliverables,
gonna ask for a whole lot more emphatic of a honk honk, if I'm being honest. But I'll leave that for you and her to hash out. But just know. We can go ahead and transition. You can do your host thing, but just know.
Steven didn't like my honk honk, and that's okay. That's okay. I'll come back.
I promise
you
she's gonna agree with me on that.
She's active on Twitter. We could post this to the main and be like, at Natasha Mack, what do you rate this honk honk out of 10?
I don't know if you want that one. You may as well redo it. She's gonna ask for so much more. I promise you.
Well, Steven,
I tweeted about it yesterday. It went from honk honk in lowercase to all caps with an exclamation mark after the end of each honk.
I have a question for you, Steven. What would you rate that honk honk out of 10?
Well, considering we've heard other honk honks before from Erica, that would be like a 4 out of 10.
Wow.
So are you just saying that like there have been such good honks that one is unjustifiable?
Correct. When you've shown to be better, at something and then you don't live up to that expectation, it leaves more to be desired. So I think 4 was appropriate. But again, it's not about me and what I think, Kevo. It's about what Mac thinks and believes, because it's hers,
Oh yeah, I know. I get you.
So I'm trying to look out for Erica before it gets to Mac, because I can tell from experience what Mac's reaction and their response will be to it.
Well, Erica's already cooked, because Mac watches this show.
For sure.
Yeah, Mac's probably watching right now with the whole team on the bus, like just disgusted at what she just saw. So Mac, I'm very sorry.
Asked, was she whispering?
Was her mic broken?
I thought I was yelling.
Yeah, that's one of those. So if we do that, just know she's gonna ask for more, significantly more.
It's okay. I'll be back in studio on Wednesday in downtown Phoenix, and I will give the most emphatic. I just know the Mercury is going to get a dub versus the Indiana Fever, and I'm going to be hype. I'm going to bring out the Thunder Sticks for the first time in a while, and we're going to get good barks. We're going to get good honks. Kevin's going to clip something good that day. I just know it. So, Kevin, save the clip of the honk, because the honking is going to improve. But we'll do more honking conversation. Also, obviously, we got to preview the week to come, and I think we're going to have some Stevens trivia here at the end of this pod. So more on that after this quick break on the PHNX Mercury podcast. Man, you know what I could honk for? It's Mountain America's more than 100 million members at their 100 branches throughout the west of the United States. You can get 2 times the points on rewards credit card purchases throughout July 31st. Whoa, that's only 3 days away. You gotta act now, dude. You can use your Mountain America rewards card and watch the points pile up. It's perfect for gas, groceries, travel, home projects, and all other necessities. You've literally heard me talk about how I'm going to use my points to repurchase my orange tree that is dead outside a gazillion of times, and I still haven't done it, so I better get on that before July 31st. But this promotion is an easy way to stretch your dollar since you honk twice as many rewards, or you don't honk, you earn twice as many rewards. Redeem your double points for rewards like travel rebates, gift cards, and event tickets. This is limited time offer. You have to take advantage of it while you still can. Again, only 3 more days till July 31st. Loans are on approved credit. Offer can change or be withdrawn at any time. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions do apply. You know where you might hear some emphatic honks?
On the street?
Yeah, at the corner when you're just standing outside your car filling up your gas pump with at Circle K. You might hear a few honks, you know? And you can be just like us. You can get your 25 cents off your first 5 fill-ups at Circle K if you join the Inner Circle Rewards app. It's super easy. You just have to download the app and get enrolled. All you have to do is add in your phone number and email address. You get 25 cents off a gallon your first 5 fill-ups. Then 3 cents a gallon on every gallon after that until you earn your way into the 5 cent off a gallon club. It's honestly pretty easy to get into the club. You just have to buy gas a few more times with the 3 cents off, and then boom, you've got 5 cents off. And then you get so many other Inner Circle rewards like dollar cookies, 79-cent Polar Pops, 99-cent Frosters. If you buy gas 4 times, you literally get another time getting 25 cents off a gallon. So they just given out 25 cents off a gallon gas at Circle K. All you have to do is be an Inner Circle Rewards member. You can join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Whew, honk honk. Man, that's stuff. You know, I'm going to spend the rest of my week being devastated by the fact that Steven didn't think my honk was that fun, you know?
It's not about me. It's about Natasha Mack, and I will continue to emphasize that point.
You can be honest, though. You also thought it was weak. You can be honest.
No, off of my own merits, off of what I've seen, I do agree, Kevin. But I refuse to allow for it to be about me.
This is about the brand. It's about the brand as well.
It's like saying yesterday, like Satu had a solid game. Like,
correct.
yes, but it was about Alyssa Thomas yesterday.
Yes. So like you don't like it, but it's not about what Steven likes.
It's not about what I like.
It's about the fact that Mac wouldn't appreciate it.
It's not mine. Exactly. It's not Steven created it. It's Mac created it. It's Mac constructed. It's Mac manufactured.
American made Mac. American made Mac.
It's Mac made. That's what I'm getting at. I hope that helps.
I'm adding Mac manufactured is being added to the repertoire. Like that is going into the Twitter drafts. So when you see Mac manufactured over a video of her getting a bucket, just know it originated from
either one of those two. Either one of those two works. For sure.
I'm actually a little mad I never came up with that on my own accord. So big shouts to Steven on that one, because like I said, I will be putting that to use on the X app. But Steven, you did just say something that kind of allows me to open up talking about this. We've talked about how good of a game Alyssa Thomas had, but we didn't really talk about the other 2 members of the Big Three in the game that they had yesterday versus the Mystics. I'll just pull it up real quick. That ain't no problem. Satu with 15 points, and that was on 6 for 10 from the field. 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. And then Kalia Copper with 6 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. Dang, everybody was stealing the ball yesterday. Everybody had sticky fingers. They all were tracking that bad boy and trying to get the steals. I love that. But yeah, it wasn't. I'm going to go on record and say that's not the best Big Three performance we are going to see for the rest of the season. But we've hammered all for the last 2 weeks that we're not seeing the best version of Ka yet. Ka, the rhythm player, Kalia Copper, she plays best when she's been playing. So I expect Kalia to continue to get better and better. But the Big Three construct is proving to work out just fine for the Phoenix Mercury. And I think above all else, that incites a lot of confidence in me that the basketball we're watching is only going to continue to get better and better.
Yep, and again, it all starts with the defensive end. Everything starts with the defensive end, which will naturally get to one of the questions in trivia when we get to that portion of it all. But just kind of running down the list of players who got at least a steal yesterday. Alyssa Thomas, 3 in and of herself. Mind you, for context, Washington had 8 total yesterday. Mercury finished the game with 10. Alyssa had 3. Kalia had 2. Kat Westbell had 1. Satu had 1. Natasha Mack had 2. And then also Monica Kormakani, of course, she had 1 as well. In addition to the steals, though, with the blocks too, DeWanna Bonner had 1. Alyssa Thomas had 1. Sammy Wickham had 1. Natasha Mack had 2. Mind you, Natasha's first 2 came on the first defensive possession of last night's game. They force a power. They get a deflection. It goes out of bounds. They re-inbound it. She goes one-on-one with Shakira Austin in the post, and she just blocks both shots. And then tips it out in addition to it, not letting it go out of bounds so that they can play in the transition. So they had 5 total blocks yesterday, in addition to the 10 steals, so 15 stocks. If you want to look at any numbers that are a barometer for their defense, that's it. Are they being as active as they typically are when they're in alignment with their identity? 10 steals suggest that they certainly were. 5 blocks certainly suggest that they were. It's the games where they're at like 7 steals, 6 steals, 5 steals, where it's like, okay, y'all can win games like that, but that means that your defensive activity isn't to the level of potential that we know it can be. It's just like we got done talking with you about the honk honk. Like, you did it, but was it elite? If the answer is no, then it's going to leave a little bit more to be desired. But when the performance is where it's supposed to be and those numbers align with what they were yesterday, 15 total stocks, you tell me they got 15 stocks, I'll tell you they probably have a win percentage of like 80%.
Yeah, I mean, when that is their winning recipe, is activity, 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 and it's proven to be a winning recipe for them. And to your point, like, it's going to be really hard to beat them when their activity is that of what it was yesterday, and when their deflections, maybe they're not getting the steal, but the deflection is going out of bounds, whatever that may look like. That does make, your possession counter go up much more, and it makes the crappy shooting percentage not matter as much because you're basically creating opportunity out of something that never existed for you in the first place. So it's just definitely a good sight to see. But I know you wanted to talk about the kind of blah, blah, blah. Oh my goodness, my train of thought actually just left my brain. Blah, blah. The reserve production. Oh my gosh. I know you kind of wanted to talk about that today. So before we get into our predictions for this week, I do want to take just a quick second to talk about the reserves from yesterday. And I don't know if you want to talk about that for just yesterday's game or just as kind of a whole.
Yeah, we could talk about it generally. I'll start with DeWanna. I'll kick it to you, and then we can kind of go back and forth in that manner. Start with DeWanna, 6'4". This is crazy to even be saying. 7'4" wingspan. That's a lot to deal with. I think maybe the point where she's had the most impact for the team comes from her ability as a help defender, but not just her stature. It's also the IQ and the understanding of like timing of when to show help and how to go about showing help based off of the situation. Is she showing help off of a drive? Who's the person that's guarding the driver? Is the person that's guarding the driver the same size as the person that has the ball? Or is it someone that's a little bit smaller, so once that drive gets downhill, the person with the ball is able to get a little bit more leverage, which means that you need to show a little bit more aggressive of help to kind of neutralize the advantage that was created? Or is it someone that's a little bit bigger than the person that's driving, so she doesn't necessarily have to show as much help over the top, but rather just be a presence in that gap that they're trying to drive towards to deter them from making that drive or to completely stop them and terminate their dribble? Other thing as well, in addition to that, anytime teams are trying to get into like empty corner pick and rolls against the Mercury defense, if DeWanna Bonner is on the court, pay close attention. This is a watching tip for me. Pay close attention to when she's spaced onto the second side and help defense, what she's doing to kind of turn that 2 versus 2 in space without help to a 3 versus 2 with the defense being an advantage in terms of numbers, and how that kind of plays into the decision making of the 2 players on offense when they're in that kind of empty corner pick and roll or dribble handoff type of situation. Again, 6'4" with a 7'4" wingspan is a lot to deal with at the rim and help, whether she's at the nail, whether she's at the rim or around the paint in general. She has opportunities to block shots and deflect passes and get steals in situations that many other players simply don't. So that's kind of my bit on DeWanna. She's been very, very, very impactful for this team. They've been multiple points better on the defensive end of the floor when she's on versus when she's off through these first handful of games that she's been around. And that says a lot considering she's only been with the team in this close to healthy, if not fully healthy construct for just 2 games.
Well, and then I would say the other end of the snake here, I think it's a tool-headed snake on the defensive end that makes things really, really difficult. And obviously, the head of the snake is Alyssa Thomas, but then there's 2 little offsprings of the snake. And one of them is DeWanna Bonner, and the other one is Monique Okolo-Makani. And Monique Okolo-Makani's activity on the defense is bar none for a guard. She has been able to get the deflections that she needs to be. She allows for the rotations that need to exist on the defensive end so that the guards of the other team are ultimately getting their first or second option. They're having to take that third option shot, which is what you want as the Phoenix Mercury, to be able to keep them to a limited amount of points here.
Yeah, and to the Monique point, I'll also bring up and mention Lexi Held. The point of attack defense is very important for any defense because no different than on offense, your point guard is setting the tone for the possession to come for the play or actions that you're trying to get into or advantages you're trying to create. You flip that and you apply it to defense. And whoever it is that's guarding the person that's trying to bring the ball up the court for the opposing team, that person that's guarding them helps to dictate action to come. If they don't comfortably get across the half court line and they either force them to pick up a dribble or they barely get past it with 16 seconds on the shot clock, how much time does the offense have to really actually run a play? It usually takes about 2.5 to 3 seconds for an action or set to completely develop. If you take away 8 seconds of that or close to 8 seconds of that, you're leaving the offense with significantly less time to create advantage. Add to that the ways that the Mercury can compile and multiply efforts and activity in the passing lanes, somebody else defending on the ball after a pass is made, Alyssa Thomas, Satu Sabali, DeWanna Bonner just roaming around all over the place with athleticism and a certain type of wingspan. That stuff kind of it weighs on an opponent over the course of a game. That's how you get to a team that's forcing double-digit turnovers over the course of games on average in a way that no other team is really replicating on a consistent basis. All of that starts with the values that Monique and Lexi Hill bring on a defensive end. So you want to start with those 2 for me. And I kind of speak about them in a similar light on the defensive end because the fact that they're able to go from one to the other is a significant value-adding type of dynamic that most teams can't replicate. Some teams have one elite point of attack defender. The Mercury having 2 in the likes of Lexi and Monique really just hits different for the lineups that they want to work with.
Well, and then to cap off this conversation with Catherine Westbeld, who has been kind of all over the floor this season in playing different positions, like on the defensive end in particular too, and guarding all different types of players. But she's been able to go into the post if she needs to. If she needs to guard on the outside, she's able to do so. She's not at all a liability on defense, which is what you are always, kind of concerned about with the newer, more, and you can't really say youthful players in the WNBA, but definitely the rookies in particular. But she's never been a liability as long as she's been, especially when she's starting for the Mercury, she's been really, really good. But even when she's coming off the bench as well. But I just think the 4 players that we've just talked about, you really can't go wrong with any of them on the court at any time, especially with that big 4 construct that Stephen kind of talked about earlier in the episode. Like filling the gaps with any of the 3, obviously sub DeWanna since she's in the big 4, like it becomes really, really difficult if you're an opposing team. So, yeah, I think the Mercury is in good spirits, and all those depth and bench conversations look a little silly right about now.
Yeah, we also got to make sure we mention Sammy Wickham as well because as the
I'm
team
sorry.
grows back healthy,
Yeah, I'm so sorry. My bad on that omission there.
as the team grows back healthy, Sammy has to step back and roll, and I think naturally that's the position that they want her in as a super sub more than a piece that has to start for the team. Especially given the top end talents that they have and the way that she complements them. When she's complimenting them, blending into lineups over the course of a rotation versus being out there to start a game, it just hits different for them. Coming into this game, or coming into today, and obviously there's 2 games happening today. Only 8 players have 50 or more, or excuse me, 9 players have 50 or more made threes. Do you know where Sammy Wickham ranks in that? And this is not trivia time. This is one kind of coming on the fly as I had it in my notes.
You said there's only 9?
9 players with 50 or more made threes this season. Where does Sammy rank in that group?
5th.
Kevin, you wanna answer this one?
I'm gonna say 4th.
Okay, so we are shooting a little bit too high for her. She's 8th right now. Nothing to scoff at in any capacity. But I think this speaks to, and I'm bringing it up because the fact that she's still top 8 in 3-pointers made, and she's been on a cold stretch the last handful of games, that speaks to how dominant she's been on the season as a whole. Even with this recent kind of stretch where she's been a little bit cold, and obviously the beginning of the season, the first 3 to 4 weeks where she wasn't really seeing the rim well and wasn't really knocking down shots to the extent that her all-time great catch and shoot prowess suggests that she would. The fact that she's still top 8 says a whole lot. And there's been a lot of hot shooters in the W the last handful of weeks.
She's only made 8 in the last 5 games, just to contextualize this a little bit for you guys.
And to contextualize it even more, she made 8 over the course of 2 games, multiple times in that stretch of games prior to this most recent stretch. So, again, the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs, but you know one thing about her, she's going to maintain a certain level. The level that she maintains is also going to come with a certain level of respect from a defense. And because of that, and the ways that can pull at the strings of a defensive shell, it opens up opportunity for players like Alyssa Thomas, who we haven't really spoken at great length to. But obviously, I think if you know who we've been talking about all season long and the light that we've been talking about her from is an MVP candidate, bona fide at that. Sammy helps to unlock her in different ways, as well as getting attention for other players based off of the gravity that she has as a shooter. And when the ball is moving around the court the way that it should, when this team is at their best, and she's around the floor running around off of screens and even just spotting up, being at a standstill, it really puts the defense in a bind because you have to make choices. And those choices come with consequences. Some consequences are leaving Sammy open and she knocks down 7 threes in the game. Others might be you don't want to help off of her. Now Monica Cole-McConney and Alyssa Thomas and Satu Sabali, Kalia Copper are just able to drive down that gap that she's next to because the defense doesn't want to help off of her. That's the construct of this Mercury team. The pieces fitting together kind of hand in glove like a puzzle, if you will. And Sammy's a huge piece in all of that. Question for you.
Real quick.
Do you have the roster? Oh, go ahead. Go.
Since AT came back from injury, there was one game that she did not lead the team in assists for the Mercury. One. Mm-hmm. And it was the game that she went off for 29 career points, and it was Sammy that assisted on a career high. I don't think it was a career high assist, but she was the one that led the team in assists that night. So, it's not even in tandem. It's a give and a take with the Phoenix Mercury, and you can't really be right. And so that's all that to say, the Mercury has a lot of things that they can unlock. If AT is able to go off that day, super. If not, let's hit Sammy and try a few threes. There's just so many different things that they can do to try to, outplay you that it becomes really hard to beat them for 4 complete quarters. Now go ahead with your question. Sorry, I just had to bring up that game.
No, that was very much on topic. And considering the film session I did last week, looking at those 2 in actions, we've spoken as much as you possibly can about Alyssa Thomas initiating pick and roll, even going back to before the season started. But a lot of that is Sammy Wickham screening for her. I talked about early in the season, Monica Cole-McConney was the player that screened most for Alyssa Thomas in pick and roll. Since Sammy has come on and she started to play more minutes, no one's even close to Sammy in terms of the amount of screens set on ball for Alyssa Thomas. But in turn, because of Sammy's kind of growth into her shooting, that suggests the type of all-time great sniper that she is, it's been a whole lot more of those dribble handoff situations that her and Alyssa Thomas have gotten into. That's the main advantage creator for them if it's not just Alyssa Thomas going to get a paint touch in some capacity. Her and Sammy getting the dribble handoffs and different variations of it, it's hard to guard. It's really hard to guard. And it just gives a different change of pace to this Mercury offense, where you go from the starting group where you have to worry about everything that the big three is with whoever it is that's starting at the 5 and everything that Monica Makani is off the ball and on the ball. So now you throw Sammy Wickham in the mix for any one of the kind of 4 perimeter players in that starting lineup and the different type of hit that it gives for their offense. It's just a lot to deal with. It's a whole lot of complementary pieces working in different fashions that tug at a defensive strings. I forgot. Oh, what I was gonna ask you, do you have the main rotation or just the general list of the roster up in front of you right now?
I can.
Okay, go ahead and pull that up because
Okay.
I'm going to pose a question to you and I'm curious about what your answer is.
I'm
So
scared.
what we're gonna be speaking to before we get to our next segment, the main rotation for this team come playoff time. So we can pretty much firmly say that this is going to be the roster the Phoenix Mercury are going into the playoffs with. Obviously, we're speaking on this ahead of time, but I'm doing this as a thought exercise so that we can revisit it at the end of the season going into the playoffs and see how the conversation shifts a little bit or if anything shifts at all and just generally what the kind of tone for the conversation is. So if you want me to go first, I can. But do you want to kind of speak on who your top 8 would be for the Phoenix Mercury? And I'm saying top 8
I can go ahead.
specifically. I think they'll end up playing. Nate will stretch it to 9 as much as he possibly can. But let's go a little bit more drastic and say you only got 8 players that you could pick that'll play 10 plus minutes in a playoff scenario. Who are your top 8 going to be as of today?
I'm sick. Okay. I'm going to go first then. Satu Sabali, Kalia Copper, Alyssa Thomas. That's no brainer. Then we add in DeWanna Bonner. That's 4. Sammy Whitcomb. That's 5. Monica Komakani. That's 6. Natasha Mack. That's 7. My 8 is going to be Catherine Westbeld.
Okay. So no Lexi Hill?
If I could have 9, I would have Lexi, but I can't have 9. God said no, and so I will take the 8 that he gave me for the day.
Okay. This is what makes it tough. You have everybody wants talent. Of course, talent is what you want as a coach, especially. But with great talent comes great decisions that have to be made. And with that great decision that has to be made on a game-by-game basis, you also have to go off script sometimes over the course of especially playoff games and playoff series. Sometimes you might go in with a scripted 8 that you want to play with. But let's say you go up against the Minnesota Lynx team in a playoff situation and you get to the third quarter, you've only made 1 3. Are you going to continue to roll with the rotation of 8 that you had? Or are you going to maybe include someone that might not have been initially included in your group, like let's say Kit Loxa, to get that 3-point spark that she provides? Like these are the type of split-second decisions that a coaching staff has to make going into games, and then when games present to them what the game is demanding from the roster that they do have at their disposal. Very tough, very tough decisions to be made. I think the Mercury have 10 players that could all suggest that this should be staking some significant or some portion of claim to a main minutes rotation come playoff time. But my top 8, and again, if we're saying only 8, I got Alyssa Thomas, Satu Sabali, Kalia Copper, DeWanna Bonner, Monica Komakani, Kat Westbeld, Natasha Mack, it's gotta be Sammy.
It has to be, right?
8, it's gotta be
It's
Sammy.
tough.
And again, you leaving off Lexi Hill. You leaving off, Kalani Brown, another piece. You're going against an Atlanta Dream team in a playoff situation. And you're not having the success that you want with your smaller players. Are you going to continue to roll with that? Are you going to bring in Kalani to hopefully neutralize things across a 3 or 4 minute stretch? Like little decisions like that. The depth is great. You're not going to play everybody. I think everybody understands that on the roster too. But the fact that you do have options to go across lineups with is everything for you. So just a nice little thought exercise that we'll get back into once we get closer to once we get done with the regular season and go into the playoffs. But it's gonna be fun to kind of gauge the rotations over the course of this latter stretch of the season. the lineups that they like to go to in specific scenarios, and ultimately what the rotation looks like come playoff time.
Well, I want to get to Steven's trivia really quick, but before we do that, we do have a post game this coming Wednesday. That's the 30th. Yep, my math is correct. So before the post game, I do want Steven and I to give our predictions for the game. The Phoenix Mercury will take on the Indiana Fever for the first time this season. It's actually the last team that they will play for the very first time this season, so I'm kind of excited to get it out of the way because I, I I itch to know information about the team, and you can't have all the information until you've watched them play all the opponents. And obviously, we'll never have all of the information, but you can have as much as humanly possible. So I'm super stoked for this game. Obviously, I think Caitlin Clark is still going to be out, so the Fever rotation is going to look a little funny, but Arizona fans have no fear. Ari McDonald will save the day for the Indiana Fever. Don't you even worry about it. It's going to be a really fun game. I'm stoked. Obviously, Aaliyah Boston is still playing Aaliyah Boston basketball. Kelsey Mitchell's playing lights freaking out right now. And then Sophie Cunningham, we all know her in Phoenix. I was going to say the other half of that sentence, but that's actually, not the truth. So we all just know her in Phoenix, and she's wiggled her way into the starting lineup up there. I'm going to be honest. I think the Phoenix Mercury take this game. We haven't got to see the Phoenix Mercury beat the Indiana Fever in over a full calendar year because they literally did not beat them a single time last season. So I hope that the Mercury win this game. I hope I whip out this Thunder Sticks. And I'm going to say it. I hope this is like one of those games where they beat them like 109 to 89. That's really what I'm hoping for. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not, but we can hope. This is all theoretical. So it's my theoretical situation. It gets to play out exactly the way I want it to. So that's what I'm going to go with is 109 to 89 Mercury ball, and then I'm whipping out my Thunder Sticks after the game to annoy the living crap out of Steven. And that's before I get in my good honk honk on Wednesday.
Well, I think it's going to take a great honk honk in terms of production from Natasha Mack in that game for the Mercury to get to that type of point differential for a win against the Fever in Indiana, mind you. After the All-Star break, the Indiana Fever are 1-2. Only team they've lost to, and really had back-to-back losses before the break and then after the break to the New York Liberty. They beat the Las Vegas Aces 80-70 on the 24th, and then this past Sunday, yesterday, they also beat the Chicago Sky by double digits. So this is a team that is finding its stride, a team that understands defense to the style of defense that Stephanie White wants them to play to, and they can compile some kind of pockets where they just can kind of control a game, honestly. Aaliyah Boston's playmaking growth has been fun to watch for fans that don't see her really growing much. She's growing a lot, and I think that playmaking part is as loud as any other part. In addition to that, because of her playmaking growth, Kelsey Mitchell has been ridiculous. That's the easiest way to put it. If there's a one-word burn for Kelsey Mitchell, I think ridiculous is the word. Sophie Cunningham has found her three-point shooting. Lexi Held has sustained her three-point shooting. Lexi Hall, has sustained her three-point shooting. They're figuring out ways to just get it done. This team is no slouch in any capacity, even without Caitlin Clark, and it's going to take your best effort to beat them, especially on their home court, because they're a team that just finds ways to get wins and get it done in a sustainable manner. All that to say, if the Mercury start tomorrow's game, or Wednesday's game, might be tomorrow by the time some of you hear it. If they start Wednesday's game like they did on Sunday and like they did in New York, they might be down 20 going into halftime. And at that point, if Kelsey Mitchell's got it going, if because of Kelsey Mitchell's got it, the way she can get it going, Aaliyah Boston's got it going, and their three-point shooters are taking wide open threes because the defense is rotating all over the place, it's a hard battle to climb. So tone setting is everything again. I will say, though, I think the Mercury found something in the second half of that game against the Mystics. And I think they have a chip on their shoulder, no different than they did prior to the All-Star break and before expectations were placed upon them early in the season. So I think they're looking to kind of get through the halfway point of this 5-game road trip with the win. I think they do so in Indiana. I'm going to say they win. Let's see. Indiana's averaged the last 2 games 86 points, and their opponents have averaged 74. Don't think they're holding the Mercury to 74 points tomorrow. Also, don't know if they get to 86. I'm going to say the Mercury win 90-80. So I'm going to say a 10-point win, and I think that Kalia Copper is going to have one of those games where she's really showing that she's turned multiple corners and she's in the paint every time you look up, and she probably gets like 8 to 10 free throw attempts because nobody can stay in front of her. I think it's going to be one of those games.
And I could be super wrong about this, but if I remember correctly about those Fever games last year, Ka was the only Mercury player to really produce well. So, I expect a big game from Ka. I'm excited. To your point, Aaliyah Boston, her screening and her passing has gotten so much cleaner this season. So I am very excited to watch that, even though it is against my own squad. So I think no matter what, it's going to be an exciting, fun game, and there's going to be a really fun post game afterwards for you on this very channel. So be sure to subscribe to PHNX Sports. Become a diehard while you're at it. We've got a sale going on for I guess it's not. I guess it's just training camp. It's not spring training camp. It's not fall
NFL
camp. It's
training
just
camp. Yeah, Cardinals training camp. Yep.
Who knew? But yeah, it's just camp, and so you can cop this deal, $36 for the year, dude. You get a free T-shirt, or you're choosing from the shop, or a hat if you prefer a hat. You also get a membership card. You get access to the Die Hard Discord Lounge, which is basically the coolest place this side of the Mississippi River. You can hang out with me and Steven in there. You can also hang out with our guy Kevo. It's a pretty cool place where you get to talk sports with all the coolest, most famous people in the valley. Which, like, why would you not want to do that? We're going to tell you about some really, really, really cool events we have going on in August. I'm going to tell you about one right now where you can go to the game with us. Oh my goodness, if I can speak English. You can go to the Phoenix Mercury game where they played the Golden State Valkyries on August. I know the people in the comments are going to come in with it in hot. I'm pretty sure it's August 22nd. You can pop by with us, have pregame food, beverage, hang out with me and Steven, ask us all the basketball questions you want, and then boom, we walk over to PHX Arena and we get some of those fill your own cup, fill your own thunder stick, whatever you want to call it, beveraginos, and we haul our rear ends down to our seats and we play with our thunder sticks until the Mercury beat the Valkyries out of the arena. It's going to be a really fun night with Steven and I. I know the other Steven, Leah, everybody's going to be there. I'm pretty sure Mark's going to be there, Andy, Bryant. I know David's going to be in the arena because David's always in the arena. So pop by those things. And in the meantime, enjoy this next segment of Steven's Trivia, which I'm so, so excited for. And I kind of sprung Steven on Steven last minute. So Steven can yell at me and be mad at me all he wants. If he wants to be, it's okay. I totally understand. But I'm really excited because we haven't had Steven's Trivia in like almost a month now at this point. So we're really coming in hot with this information today. Woo!
Yeah. Let's start looking at the Mercury through the lens of the defense because that's where their identity lies most. If this team is hoisting the championship trophy, another one for this franchise, come September or October rather, it's going to be off of the backs of the defense first, second, and third. So because of that, we talked about this team leading the league in terms of opponents' turnovers per game. They're forcing their opponents into close to 17 turnovers a game on average. Obviously, like I mentioned, number one in the WNBA. Looking at the steals, though, in particular, when they get to double digits in terms of steals compiled over the course of games, they are 6-2 in those games. Do you know what their total in terms of the highest number of steals that they've kind of compiled over the course of a game was this season?
I'm going to go what I feel is high and say 15.
Okay. Kevo, you got a guess?
They just put up 15, and I feel like
oh, you're right. Dang
it. Steven has not yet to say that is the biggest total so far this season, so I'm going to go with like 21.
All right, 21 is a little too high. I don't know. Well, actually, I take that back because I watched I hate to throw the Sky under the bus, but I watched them play against the Seattle Storm a couple of weeks ago. Was not a pretty game. So I was going to say I don't think anyone's got 20 or more steals, but I was quickly brought back to that moment. I'll leave that alone. There is a team that has 20 or more steals in the game. But no, for the Mercury, Erica is correct. 15 is the season high for the Mercury so far this season. That actually came against the Washington Mystics, but in their first matchup on May 25th, the first time they went against this team. Obviously, that ended in a win. It was a super low-scoring game, 68-62. But they don't get that win without the activity that they played with defensively. No different than the game from last night. So, like I said, last night was their 8th game where they had 10 or more turnovers or 10 or more steals that they were able to take away from their opponents. When they do so in those types of games, they're 6-2 this season. So the winning percentage suggests that they get more steals, they win the games almost definitively. And also to note, the 2 games that they did lose when they had 10 or more steals, one of them was that game against the Dallas Wings where Paige Becker is just Paige was Paige, or excuse me, not Paige, but all of the guards for just generally speaking, all the guards for the Dallas Wings decided to have good games, knocking down threes galore. So there was that game in Dallas, and then there was the first matchup against the Minnesota Lynx where, or the second matchup against the Lynx, excuse me, where they had multiple players out, and they were just kind of on a whim on a road trip on top of all of that. Didn't have their best game, but they did get 11 steals in that game. So keep that in mind going forward. The more steals the Mercury get, they lead the league in terms of forcing opponents into turnovers, almost 17 a game. 6-2 in games where they have double-digit steals as a total. Number 2, we're going to slide over to the playmaking realm of things. So looking at it on the season as a whole, I mentioned the stat before, but for the Mercury, when they get to 22, the number 22 in terms of assists, they have 12 games where they have 22 or more. They've won all but one game this season when they get to 22 assists. And the one game that they lost was this most recent one against the New York Liberty. That record will be 11-1 for context purposes. Do you know where they rank in terms of on average assists per game this season?
Like in the whole W?
Yeah, in the whole W.
And I was looking at team stats earlier today, so I'm kind of mad at myself for not just knowing this off the dome. So, but I'm gonna go with first, and at the bare minimum, second.
Okay. Kevo?
I was also gonna say first. So I'll just say first.
Okay. So Erica says first, and Kevin says first.
Correct.
Okay. I'll give the chat a little bit of a second to answer this question as well while I bring up some other stats I wanted to bring up real quick. So for full context, the Mercury are not like an elite level pass team in terms of total passes that they kind of make or compile over the course of a game. And I bring that part up to suggest that it's not always about the volume. It's more so about what's the intention and what's the process behind the passes that you're making. Are you just throwing it around the court because it's what your coach wants? Or are you being intentional about the types of passes you're making? Are those passes kickouts, like I talk about with Alyssa Thomas, leading the W in kickout passes? Is it coming after a paint touch that garners extra attention? She's kicking it to someone that's wide open. The defense is rotating to that person, and now they're making an extra pass and an extra pass, and now someone's getting a wide open catch and shoot opportunity. Or is it just the aimless kind of passing it around the horn with no one moving that we kind of saw in the first 2 games out of the All-Star break? This season has been a whole lot more of the former with intention than the latter, and they've gotten the record that they've had because of it, like I mentioned, with them getting the 22 assists. Okay. Drum roll, please, for what the record or for what they rank in terms of passes or assists on game on average. The Mercury are number 3 in the WNBA this season in terms of assists on average per game. Again, like I mentioned, a team that doesn't make a significant amount of passes relative to the rest of the league, but the process in which they go about making their passes is what does it for them. Minnesota shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. Leads the league in assists per game at 23.6. The New York Liberty are number 2 21.8. In at number 3, making significantly less passes on average per game as a team is the Phoenix Mercury at 21 even. So again, 21 on average. When they get to more than their average, 22 assists a game, I told you what the record was. They've only lost one game, and that was only to the New York Liberty. So keep that part in mind going throughout the rest of the season when you're watching the Mercury play. Last one I want to bring up. Let's talk about free throw rate. So very important stat when you're looking at the Mercury, because when they lose the free throw rate, and it also comes in tandem with their turnover rate and what they're forcing their opponents into not being nearly to the level that it suggests that they should be at, they kind of find themselves in a bad way where they're playing an uphill battle that it's hard to battle with when you're not knocking down your threes. So looking at the free throw rate, I want to ask it generally, and then we'll kind of contextualize it all as we go through it. If I told you that going into the season, like me and Erica spoke about at great length, the Mercury had 5 players that were top 35 in terms of free throw attempts on average last season. Coming into this season with those 5 players plus a few other players that do play a style of game that suggests they should be getting fouled more, where would you say that they rank in terms of the entire league? Mind you, there's 13 teams, so on free throw average or free throw rate, if you will, where do you think the Phoenix Mercury rank in terms of the entire league so far this season?
I'm going to go 6th.
Get out of my brain. I'm going to go 8th.
Okay. Erica says 6th. Kevin says 8th. Drum roll, please. The Phoenix Mercury this season for free throw rate, y'all are going to be very sad, annoyed, vexed, Kevo. Number 10.
What?
Number 10 in free throw attempts per game, free throw rate. Only averaging 18 free throw attempts a game so far this season. And I bring that up, and Andy brings up the point that I was not going to say in the literal sense, but it definitely seems like it. They don't get the type of whistle that you would think a team that has Alyssa Thomas, Kalia Copper, Satu Sabali, Monica Court-McConney, and a handful of other players that spend a lot of time in the paint. They don't get the whistle that you would suggest that the individual style of player each of those players would suggest, yet alone when you put all of those players on the exact same roster. So that's something to keep in mind and watch going forward. What's the temperament of the team? I think it's fair to acknowledge that they don't get the call, they don't get the whistles that it seems like they should, even over the course of the games that we've seen in recent memory after the All-Star break. Do they allow for that to kind of sway and dictate their kind of feel for the game, or do they kind of learn and play through it without allowing for the lack of a whistle to affect their approach and their style of play on a possession-by-possession basis? I think the discernment and the kind of discipline on that is important, because when you get to these high-leverage games in the playoffs, as great as this Mercury team is anybody going to expect for them to get a better whistle than the Minnesota Lynx, the New York Liberty, or even the team that's at the bottom end of the playoffs right now in the Las Vegas Aces, if they end up matching up with either one of those 3 teams in the playoffs?
I just want to say that I literally said 6th, and I think they should be more like 3rd or 4th, but I said 6th because I knew that my squad gets played. I knew that they play in their faces all the time. And so, yeah, I hate that Kevin and I still couldn't overcompensate enough for the refs. I feel like Paige Becker's out there asking the refs, do you need my glasses? Like, I'll take my contact lenses out of my eyes and put them in yours if that's what needs to happen.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I imagine Nate and company are submitting clips to the WNBA after every game asking, how is this not a foul? Alyssa Thomas got this switch on her. This guard has no business being able to guard her in the paint unless they foul. And if they foul, with the officials seeing what's happening because a switch took place and knowing that there's nothing that this poor little guard can do, and they just swallow the whistle. Like, I'm sure they're submitting multiple clips, not just for their offense when they have the ball, but also defensively. Because this is a team that doesn't gamble as much as their foul rate suggests. And I do, like we talked about after the Liberty game, they can clean up moments where, okay, you've gotten through a half of a game and you've seen that a whistle is being blown a certain type of way, to not put yourself in a position of succumb to the whistle of officials. They can do a better job with that, but can you play like a little bit of defense? Is that okay? Like, you can't just expect a team led by Alyssa Thomas to Olay players to the basket. I don't want to get a foul call, so I'm going to just let you go ahead and score. That's not what's going to happen. This team is going to play defense. Can they be allowed to? Like, just a little bit. I've seen other teams get away with more physicality than this Phoenix Mercury team has been allowed to. That's not okay. Yet and still, they still find themselves top 4 in terms of defensive rating. Imagine what it would be like if they didn't get the whistle that they got on the defensive end and on the offensive end. Not complaining, just speaking to a trend. If you want to watch it objectively, you can go and watch any Mercury game and you will see what I'm talking about.
I'm going to say it. Steven, I've been hosting this show for about a year and a half now with Steven, and I don't think I've ever gotten him to straight up like say something about the refs not being able to do their job correctly. And so
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like, I genuinely think they could be 2 wins better this season if the whistle was up to par with where it should be. I'm not even saying them getting calls in their favor. I'm just saying for the officiating to be to a level that it should be at.
Can I ask you a question?
I would hate for playoff games to be lost and succumb to bad officiating again. Because guess what? Newsflash, y'all. We literally saw the WNBA finals end largely because of a significant total of bad calls over the course of a series, but especially in the final game of the season. Now, I'm not trying to rain on the New York Liberty Parade because they were more than deserving of winning the championship last season, but the merits on which they won it, if Minnesota got those same calls in their favor, I think we look at a different champion coming out of last season, which shifts and changes a whole lot of what happened in this past offseason. Like, different decisions are made. The officiating has to rise with the level of play of these women. And if it's not, the product of the game is going to get held back. Do you want that? Do you want fans to get to the point where with the NBA, they're mad at the way the officials are calling games because they don't allow for people to play defense and teams are scoring 130 points a game on average? Do you want it to get to that point? Just saying, if you want everything else to be better, the officiating has to get better too at some point. Now, I kind of leave it at that.
I love what Steven preaches, man. Happy Monday to me. Ooh.
Now, but I give a lot of space for error before I speak on things to see if it's a trend. Needless to say, after last season and then this season, I'm beyond there at this point.
Okay, but do you think that it is like and recency bias probably isn't the right word, but like a bias because of the type of player that Diana Taurasi was in Phoenix, and that's why they just get an unfavorable whistle? Or do you think there's something else that plays a factor as to why the Mercury do in fact get an unfavorable whistle?
I think it's a lack of execution on the officiating level. Honestly, because how often do you see the first shot for a Mercury game take place in the paint? Like, Alyssa Thomas, if she's not taking the first shot, she's setting the table for the first shot to be taken. Alyssa ain't shooting no threes.
Like, I was dying laughing at the Mystics announcer yesterday talking about how
make it make sense. Make it make sense. That's all I'm saying. Just make it make sense. So here's to hoping the officiating gets better come playoff time, because it seems like a lost cause for the regular season. So toss that out the window. Hopefully they choose the right crop of officials for the playoffs and that they're up to par. Because, again, I would just hate for the basketball product. We're in for a potential all-time great playoffs, generally speaking. The top 4 teams are very, very good. Because of how good the top 4 teams are, the next 4 teams are also solid, making for styles and matchups that can make for some very fun first-round matchups and second-round matchups, and ultimately for a 7-game series that could potentially be on the table, a WNBA Finals that could be an all-time great. Don't want for that to be succumb to bad officiating again. It would just be a significant step in the wrong direction before everything that happens with the CBA going into next season.
Well, in an absolute chaotic turn of events, the Wings were up by like 25 points on the New York
Yeah.
Liberty, and now it's a 6-point game on this fine Monday afternoon. So we've done great work here. Like I said, I just can't fathom how happy I am that we got Steven preaching about officiating. We got him catching slips. Kevin and I slipping on the trivia. It was a great episode today. So
Dare I
please,
say
please.
it was Steven preaching Gardner?
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming.
Woo!
I had to, Steven. I literally had
That
to.
is Kevin Thomas, Kevo Post on Twitter. You want more? You want more dad jokes? You follow Kevin on Twitter.
I don't tweet as many dad jokes as I say. Maybe I should get on that.
You should.
Build your brain.
At least
Kevo.
send them in the Discord.
Yeah. Having it be a diehard exclusive.
Yeah, that's a whole supplemental content segment in and of itself. Dad jokes with Kevo.
Well, please tap in with Steven at StevenPG3 on Twitter. He really has been pouring out the excellent basketball takes over the last couple of weeks. I've been watching, and he coming in with the good content after good content after good content, and it spreads over onto our PH_Mercury account where we share that together. So if you want to tap in with both of us, you can do so on there, and you can also tap in with me at Erica Lee Day. Like he said, don't forget to follow our guy Kevin at Kevo Post, where he shares a multitude of Arizona memes, sometimes a random D-backs meme, and then like a couple of jokes a day. So you can follow all of us on Twitter, and we will catch you guys after the game versus the Indiana Fever on Wednesday. Bye.
We all silly like the mayor.